Hello everybody. In this video we are going to do our to-do app with Vue.js. In this case we are going to have a different approach and it's going to be pretty much the approach for the rest of the semester. We are going to be using the Vue CLI. CLI stands for Command Line Interface, and Vue have one in order to create an application. The way that we did the introduction from Vue in the last video, it was importing the CDN version of Vue.js. I already have pretty much everything that we need just to apply it. That part is called the progressive part, because you can actually can tie it up with any project that you already have. In this case, we tie it up with an empty project, but we're able to use it, and it's really good for development or for testing something really quick. But in a real life scenario, the Vue CLI is the one to actually help us to create a project with some parameters in there that we can actually implement or not in our application. So I want to actually start using that one since this video. So let's get started. We knew in the development environment setup that we can use Vue-V to identify what version of Vue CLI we already have installed. If we are able to do that, we are ready to go. As you can see, I'm already in my week 2 folder. I already have my introduction to Vue folder in there, so I will create a new one through the Vue CLI. With Vue create to-do app. This command, what it's going to be doing, is going to start me asking some questions about some parameters that I want to add or not to add. And they give you two different options. If you start pressing your arrow keys in your keyboard, you can actually select one or the other. In this case, I don't want to mess with anything. We're going to select just the default and click enter. This is going to be doing is going to prepare our environment for development in Vue.js. It will install dependencies, it will tell some helpers, and it will be some really cool stuff that we can actually use in our application. We are not being using anymore the live server that we have in Visual Studio Code, but we're actually going to use a server that Vue.js gives us in this specific environment. So as you can see, dependencies have been installing. We can see pretty much what is actually happening there. In my case, finished over 6 seconds. So the only thing to do is start the application and run the server. So let's actually go through the application, cd to-do app. And before actually run it, I will open it in my code editor. Let me close this and let me show you what is happening here. Let me increase the font a little bit. There you go. And we have a bunch of folders that we can actually use and utilize for the environment. Let's go through that. The first one is the node module. This is where all the dependencies are going to be installed. Don't worry about those. We never need to mess around with that folder. We need to leave it like that. If we mess around with that folder, something will fail in the future. We have our public folder and the source folder. The public is where we're going to put actually float public, and the source is where we're going to put all our code in there. We have the git ignore, that we know that all the files are going to be ignored by git, and there is a bunch of them, including our node module folder, as you can see. And we have some package.json. The bubble configuration is just a simple configuration that we needed there. Let's leave it like that. Package.json, it gives us a bunch of information about our application. If you don't understand what this means, don't worry about those. Right now what is important is the script section. We have a serve script, a build, and a linter script. This is going to be a specific script that the Vue CLI already have in place. This is going to put like it's going to set up a development environment for us. It's going to compile our code in order to see it. And the Vue is going to actually build our application for production. And I want to show you that how that actually works at the end. Vue linter will help us a little bit with the implementation of cleaning our code a little bit. Then we have some production environment dependencies and some development dependencies. We are not going to mess around with those. It's pretty much several sections that we can use in the future. But right now, let's keep this away without changing anything. We just close it. And I want to make address to the public folder. And we have the index.html file in there. And as you can see, this file is a traditional HTML5 file. We have the doc type HTML. We have the HTML tag. Right now we're specifying a specific language in English, so we have that attribute in there. We have the head and the body, as we know, with all the meta information on the head, including our title of our application. This is the first one that we're going to change to that in Vue. Perfect. Then inside the body, we have a new tag that we didn't know before. It's called noScript. This is just, if we head over, we can actually see represent nothing if scripting is enabled. So we have a really old browser that doesn't accept JavaScript. This is going to be rendered. But because we're going to be using modern browsers, this actually never happened. Just to let everybody know. And then we have an empty block with ID app. So we have an empty div here. And as you can see, it's really similar to what we did before. And all our application is going to render it in this section. Everything is going to be injected by Vue in this section. We can see that we don't have any script file in the end, but because our server is going to be automatic injected here. So we don't need to mess around with this information. We just leave it like that. We just change the title in there. And where is our application? So we're going to be able to share. It will came from our source directory. In our source directory, we have several folders. For the main entry point, it's going to be actually in the main.js file. The main.js file, we have some importing. Those imports are actually part of the dependencies that we need to use in order to use Vue in a really more production environment. We are going to see those more detail in the future. But I want to focus in this last section. So it's really similar to what we did before. We have a little bit different syntax because how it is, but at the end we're saying that our Vue application, or new Vue application, need to be mounted in the tag that have the ID of app. So this is where we say, okay, everything is going to be injected, pushed here. So at the end, we're using a single page application. It's just one index file that everything is going to be changed in this application. This is pretty much what it's doing. And we see that we created some new files in there called .vue files. Those .vue files is called the single file components. And because Vue works pretty much with components, with sections, they introduce that concept in there. You're going to see those. The difference about those concepts are actually, they have the template part at the top, the script part at the middle, and the style part at the end. Instead of having a HTML, JavaScript, and CSS file, we have all together in 3 different tags. It's something to maintain the information by areas or by components where it's supposed to be. It's really helpful in the future. And we can see over here that we can actually import a new component from another area. So in this example, I'm importing the hello world from my component folder. This is one, and this will have a bunch of information. In order to see this to work, let me go to my command line and do yarn serve. We're going to wait for a couple of minutes. It's getting building, it gets compiling. And now we can actually open it in my, let me open it over here. So this is actually my application. Let me send it in another screen so we can have it over here. Cool. So now, if we don't have much changing, let's actually remove from my component, let me remove pretty much almost everything. And save. We see that we delete all the content from there. So what we're going to do first, we're actually going to do some cleanup. We're going to stop our command, it's Control C. So we're going to do the searching field. And we are going to do some cleanup in our application. We are going to delete the component folder we are not using right now. We are going to delete the assets. We are not using those right now. And our main application view, we are going to delete these two lines for now. And we actually, everything is a template. And we just put a new h1 called hello. Hello there. In the script tag, let's remove the import. Let's remove the component section from the export. And let's remove the whole styling section. We don't need those. After we have done that, we can do a yarn serve and see if our application is working that it's supposed to. We refresh the page and we see a simple hello there. That means it's working. So let's actually start implementing it from here. I will go back to my app. I will commit all my changes and I will call it clean Vue project, because what we do is we clean up. Let's call actually clean up Vue project and we commit that. Something really important, when we create a new Vue project as we did right now, it has the Git repository already enabled. So that's pretty cool. We're going to add the Git hub at the end in order to push everything there. So we're able to save all that. So the next phase, let's actually look for Tailwind and let's import it from the CDN. We're going to change that later in the future, but for now let's do it like that. And we need to just put it after our title. We save. And we saw that this actually changed. That means that it's working. Cool. We can actually go here. Let's commit that and put add Tailwind CSS. Cool. After we have that, we can start working with our application. And this is going to be really simple. Something really important here is that inside template, we need to have a parent and div tag or tag, and everything should be inside that. So for example, if we have a div with something here, we cannot have another div at this level. It would fail. It actually gives us that we need to have just one root element. So this div actually needs to be inside another one. Something like this. So just to keep in mind that we need to have something there. And as you remember before, what I like to do, I like it actually to have some kind of container grabbing everything. This is why I like it. So from here, what I'm going to do is really quick. I'm going to do File, Open, and I go back, in my case, to my semester project, and I will open my week 1, my to-do application in Tailwind, and I will open the HTML file. And I will grasp pretty much everything inside my body tag just before the JavaScript. So I copy all that, I close it, and I put it inside my template. And I save it. If I save that, we have an issue somewhere probably. It didn't like a bunch of things. Oh, we have this error here. I don't know what happened there. This actually needs to be removed from here. There you go. Save it. Perfect. I had a typo there. And we have the application up and running. Well, without functionality, but the styling is already there. And after I'm looking at the application in default width, I think these actually are pretty much too big. So let me just make this a little bit smaller. And I believe that was here, in this div. So let's change this to, instead of 10, 12, to 1/2. There you go. I will have a more appealing sizing in there. And we can start working with our Vue application. So the styling is already done. Let's change my title, Tailwind, and Vue. Perfect. We have the title in there. And just because I like emojis, let's put another emoji at the beginning. There you go. Perfect. So let's start working with Vue and something similar as we did before. So one of the things with Vue is that we need to start forgetting or not worry that much for template because we already have it there. I just need to make it smart to work depending on data. We need to focus in our information. So one of the cool things that we have here is we can actually have a data element. So after the name, when we are exporting in the script, we create a data function that will return several objects in there. I will create my pending list. That's going to be right now an empty array. And we'll create my completed list. That's going to be an empty array too. So for now, I can do all those. Actually have my item 1, comma, item 2, item 3, item 4, and let's actually put an item 5 in there, just in case. Item 5. There you go. It's not doing anything to our app. That's okay. So we have this actually repetitive over here. It went to delete 1. So let's get rid of the second list item for the completed and for the pendings. Perfect. So we have one per section with already all the stylings that we need to have. So the only things that we need to do is we need to make it smart and repetitive this depending how many we have in this section. So we learned that we can actually use the before element. So let's do that. And let's do a simple before equal, and we say item in, or let's actually call pending in pending list. It will give us an error because it will tell us that we need a specific key. A key is some kind of ID. It's a really good practice to have in order to understand whenever we have repetitive information, each one is unique. So we need to specify a key. Because the information doesn't have some kind of IDs, we are not having that, we have some kind of index. So we can actually ask for pending and the index to return what number of repetition we are. And we are going to see that the key, we need to start with the quotes on there. My index is going to be my key. It's just a formality to have the before working. After doing that, you see that I have 2 items 1 because we have 2 items in my pending list. We're going to copy those 2 exactly and put it in my other list item, but instead the pending list is going to be completed in my completed list. And there you go. 2 items for pendings, 3 items for completed. So it's doing the repetition that it's supposed to, but it doesn't give me the correct name. How we fix that? Well, we know that we are hard coding the name here. We need to remove that inside between the opening and closing tags. So we are going to open and close twice. I like to call those mustache brackets or curly bracket. I believe that's the real name. So what I'm going to do in this before is in my pending list, I'm looping over all the elements and temporarily for each element is calling pending now. And because pending is directed to some title in there, I can actually use print my pending here. And you will see item 1 and item 2. Let's actually do the same here. For my completed list, each element is called completed. So instead of hard coding this title, I will open the curly bracket and print my completed. And we have item 3, 4, and 5. So it starts looking that it's supposed to. Let's start working now with the functionality. We need a function that when we click one of those, and click enter here, and we click the button add. So let's do that. And let's start with the button. And we're going to the top, in the bottom. We can actually remove the ID. We don't need that anymore. Or we can leave it. It's up to you. Right now, I will leave it. It doesn't bother me right now. So let's do or read the event listener for click event. So when somebody clicks this button, you're going to do something. And I will call it add. Okay? Before we continue that, in my input, I will call the Vue model element. The Vue model, what it does is actually type the value or my input to something, to a specific data element that I have. And here I will call new one called new to do. Doesn't exist right now. But before my pending list, I can actually put my new to do, and it's going to be an empty string with a comma because we have an object here. So now, right now, everything that I have in my input, I have a model of new to do, so it's binded. So whenever this information changes, it's going to change the input and vice versa. It's pretty much like saving the value already somewhere. And because of that, now I can use the add method. We need to add this function in our application. In order to Vue do that, we can actually specify my methods, curly bracket, open and close one, and then each one of those functions that we needed on methods. So I call it the add method. And we're going to be doing here is something really, really simple, and that's why I love how to have Vue. We're going to do the if statement, the if else, as we had it before. And we need to specify the new to do information. We don't need to specify the input anymore, because input it gets tied to here, so I can just work with the JavaScript object directly. So I need to say, okay, from this element or from this object, the new to do is not equal to an empty string, do something. Else, we need to alert, please add a task. Specify the task to add. Okay? And what we're going to do here is something really simple. This needs to be pushed in an array. And we can use JavaScript directly. So we can actually do in my this.pending list, just push my this dot new to do. As simple as that. Of course, at the end, I need to do my new to do be initialized again, and I save that. What I'm saying, whatever I have in my new to do, push it to my pending list. That's it. So if I put new item and I click add, that gets added automatically, and already have the styling that it needs to have here because of the before. You saw that reactivity? Do you saw that I didn't need to actually fix my hover? I didn't need to specify new classes in there because everything is inside my template and it's working through my Vue. My before, that's the cool thing about Vue. You have a little learning curve at the beginning, but after you get sense of that, you can add interactivity and functionality really quick to your application. Cool. Now we need to verify the key, press enter. So we go back here and we're going to do, whenever do a key up, check add. It's going to verify we can actually add. And what we are going to be using is another method. So at the end of my method, just before the closing method tag, I will add another function called check add. And this will take my event. Remember that we event listener send event, so it will actually take the event. Because we are specifying a specific event here, we don't need to specify to send the event again. So it is sent that by default. And it's up to us if we want to use it or not. And I believe what we had here, if I'm not correct, let me just open it. Let me open the old main.js from my week 1. Oh, actually this one is not. Okay, give me a minute. So let me actually go there and open, and you will see my folder week 1. Let's open the Tailwind in my main.js, and I will get this section. I can just copy, close it, and paste it inside here my check add. But so it's still sending the event. I will still check that the event is actually the enter key. I will prevent default. I need to do that. But instead of pushing the click button, what I'm going to do is going to execute this .add function. Just do what the same button does for us. So I save this and put new item again, and I click enter. You get added automatically. So now I need just to handle how to pass from pending to completed and from completed to pending. It's going to be a simple task. So let's go back and we can say in my list item for pending, so I can do add click. I'm just reading a simple click event. I will move to completed my pending, and let's actually put after the key. So my element here is called pending, so I will send it to my method I need to create called move to completed, and in my completed I will call it move to pending, and I will send my completed element. So we'll tie up one specific one, but in order to remove it I need to actually send my index, so I need to do both. Perfect. But I'm going to add a couple more called move to completed, and let me just fix my typo here. There you go. I have my to do and my index, and I will have another one called move to pending, send my to do and my index, and we're going to use just traditional JavaScript. And I believe this one is to be like this. There you go. So what I want to move to completing, that means it's my pending. So what I need to do is this dot completed list, add my to do because I'm moving to there, and from this dot pending list I will splice. This is just to remove one item. This is a JavaScript that is in this index, and I will remove one item. There you go. And exactly the same goes through here. The difference is we're going to just change the order. From pending to completing, we are pushing to completed, remove from pending, and from completed to pending, we push it to pending and remove from completed. Simple traditional JavaScript without worry for anything else. just with that functions in there. We can just click it, and it gets sent it to the bottom. There you go. And we click those and send it to the other one. So now we have that functionality, and everything is working as it's supposed to. If I add a new one, it shows there. But I don't want to stop here. Let me show you how to add extra functionality that in vanilla JavaScript should be a little really difficult to do in order to keep track for everything, but here it's going to be really simple. So I can create just before my methods. So computed elements. And we know those computed elements are actually elements that are going to change over time and will be returned. So I can actually put my total pendings and my total completed. And the first one is to return this dot pending list dot length, and my total completed is going to return the information from this dot completed list length. So now I have access to how many items do I have in each list, and I can list those right here. So I can actually put like a colon and my curly brackets in order to have like a template that is going to be inserted, and I want to print here my total completed because I'm in the completed section, and in my pendings I want to send my total pendings. I save those and I show me how many I have. If I'm interacting with those, I can see right away that that number gets updated and be added whenever I put a new information in there. You can see that. This is pretty cool. We have that reactivity just with a couple of lines of code, but that's not all. I can actually use in my total pendings, if I go to my pending section, I can do a if. I can see my total pending just bigger than 0. And my total completed, I can go to this in my completed section, I can do another if, like just show it if my total completed is bigger than 0. So if I finish my pendings, instead of putting pending 0, I don't have my pending list anymore. Let me refresh everything. If I move everything from completed, instead of showing me completed 0, it doesn't show me that anymore. Perfect. So now what we can do, I can go to my data, and my two arrays, just put like an empty arrays. I don't need to have that dummy information there anymore. And I have my to-do app completely empty. And I, new item, is going to be my pendings. If I click it, it's set it to completed, and going back and forward to complete from pendings. But I'm still can add more. There you go. So I just want to show you how quickly Vue.js will help us to have that reactivity and how to add more functionality to our applications really quick without adding that much lines of code. So I know at the beginning it looks like too much, but I just want to focus the JavaScript section. The JavaScript section starts in the line 48 and finish in the line 91. So we are having around 30 lines of code, 40 lines of code, 40 lines of code more likely. And it's a lot less lines of code than we had before in the JavaScript section, but with all that functionality. That's pretty neat. So now that we have that done, let me stage everything, and I will, in my changes, add my application view, but finish the app, everything is there. I will do really quick, go to my GitHub. I will create my new repo. Vue to do app with Tailwind. And the only things that I need to do is copy this remote because it's already a repository that exists locally. So I will just open my terminal here. Well, actually, I can do it from here. Let me close my server. I'm already in that folder. I add the remote, perfect. I do a git status to see if everything's okay. Everything's okay. So I can just do a push -u origin master. There you go. Everything gets pushed to my repo. If I refresh my repo in GitHub, I see all my information is there with all the commits that we did. Excellent. I want to do one last thing. I want to do an example how to run this in production, and it's building our application. So what we did right now in the past is we're just creating the JavaScript app directly. Right now, we need, because now we are using like an environment for development that help us all this information. The .vue files, they are not working in a real production environment, or the browser doesn't know how to handle those. So we need to transfer all that to JavaScript and traditional HTML. So when we hit Vue yarn build, as you saw before, it creates a distribution directory. That distribution directory, it has my index file, is already without spaces because it's production ready. And you saw that it has my reference that we put it there for the Tailwind. And then we have the scripts, vendor script, preload over there, JavaScript. We have the div for the app is still there, and my another JavaScript. So it's actually pushing those JavaScript depending how it actually needs. And in my JavaScript, it just build a bunch of information that it needed. So all that reactivity that we doesn't know how to do is already embedded in this code. And this code is already production ready. That means that it can be saved in any server and it's working the application as it is. And actually, without running here from my distribution folder, I can select my index file. So this is pretty much everything that I have for today. I hope that you like it. Happy coding, everybody.